Then eventually Mark said that any 13-year-old who doesn't watch porn has no life. When you think of friends, what comes to mind? For many of us, we think about people walking together, people playing in the park together, hanging out, a sleepover maybe, playing video games, supporting each other, or doing homework together, or maybe copying each other's homework, joking and laughing together. Friends are supposed to be close to us, and we may spend a lot of time with them. But what if your friends were toxic? What if you couldn't avoid them? What would you do? For some of us, we'd rather have bad company rather than no company at all. I'll share a story of my toxic middle school friends. Influences that changed me quite negatively. If you're young, you might want to stick around till the end because a lot of us don't realize what kind of friendships we need to keep and what kind of friendships we don't. So, my middle school was a small school, and in one building we had three different schools. There was another private school and there was a high school at the same time. So a lot of people from my middle school, knew each other. So in sixth grade, I was in the honors class, and basically everybody in that class would be together next year and the year after. So you'd have to deal with the same people from sixth grade all the way up until the end of eighth grade. Even if you wanted to avoid them, you wouldn't be able to because they were in your class. You would see them every day. You'd see them each period. You would see them in lunch. So I had two close friends named Alex. Let's call them Alex and Mark. So Alex was a chubby kind of guy, and he used to be bullied for that, like flat out, straight up. He's a target of teasing and bullying. Mark was kind of short and pudgy. Reminds me of Drake's Pastries. They made immature middle school jokes, talked about superficial things like music and clothes, and I stayed in that crowd because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I feel like middle school boys project their insecurity outwards by insulting other people. Or maybe they just don't understand empathy. So Mark used to tell me that I would never impress girls with the way that I dressed. So I used to wear these like skater shoes. I used to wear Tony Hawk shoes. I wasn't a skater or anything. I just thought it looked nice. I mean, he obviously didn't think so. And then there's this idiotic idea that your worth comes from how much female attention you can get. But I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. So the group of us would sit together, maybe 5 or 6 guys at one table, and Mark would straight up just roast me, like insult me, like the way I dressed, the way I looked, my hairstyle, and everyone would laugh. I don't even remember the specific things that he would say, but like everything about me, like nitpicking, and they would all laugh. Well, to us right now, it might sound a little silly. It's like, just brush it off, man. They're just joking. But to a insecure 12-year-old, to be mocked by the same people who call themselves your friends, to be insulted by 5 guys at once, loud enough for everybody else to overhear, really hurts your self-esteem. And at the time, I didn't have the courage or the self-esteem to challenge them or to shut them up. It was like pack mentality, One person mocks you, they all laugh. And then another person mocks you, and then they laugh again. And then, everybody takes their turn. It's like, like wolves eating at, prey. And I would tell them later that I didn't like it when they would mock me together. They'd joke about it and be like, it's not a big deal. Come on, get over it. And then they would, apologize. And then they'll be like, all right, fine, we won't do it again. And then, a few days would go by, and then the same exact thing would happen again. Looking back at it now is like mockery over the silliest things. Like they would make fun of me for not listening to certain types of music. It's like such a stupid thing to do. Or that I didn't wear Jordans. I remember one time in art class, the guys were sitting together, so it was like about 6 or 7 of us at one table, and Mark was making fun of me for not listening to Lil Wayne. And like an idiot, I told him that I did listen to Lil Wayne. So now obviously the next logical question is, name a song or name some lyrics, but I clearly didn't think it through, and he asked me to name some songs and I couldn't, so that obviously proved him right, and he mocked me some more and they all laughed. And if that wasn't bad enough, the other tables nearby could hear what was going on, and then eventually some guy would intervene, but the damage was already done by the time the nice guy in the group would actually stand up for me. One thing that really hurts a middle school boy's self-esteem is being insulted by your friends in front of the girls in the class, which is also stupid, by the way. But what really strikes me in that instance is how did the teacher not notice that this was going on? Like it should have been obvious. Everybody's laughing. This one kid is quiet. I don't understand how you could miss that. They were definitely loud enough to be heard, and you only needed to hear listen into like 2 sentences to understand that somebody's being bullied. Like, I work as a substitute teacher, so like I can tell what's going on in the classroom. Like, if some kid is whispering to their phone in the back of the classroom, I know that they're on call with somebody, they're on the phone. Like, I can tell which 2 kids are friends, which 2 kids don't get along, which group really clicks and stays together, who are the like kind of introverted kids who don't interact with everybody else, who's always cutting class, who's making fun of who. Like, you can tell. Like, any teacher worth their educational salt should have an idea of what's going on, like how the students get along in the classroom. You can tell who are the talkative kids, you can tell who are the rowdy kids, you can tell which kids are always playing Genshin Impact or Clash Royale instead of doing their work. You can tell which girl has her purse on her table so that you can't see her using her phone. You notice. I feel like it's just negligence to not notice who's being bullied in the middle of your class. Maybe it's because I was bullied in middle school and like freshman year in high school that I was able to recognize that these things happen and I pay more attention. But still, I feel like it should be obvious. Anyways, I digress. That's not the point. So Alex and Mark would say problematic things. You know, they'd make dirty jokes, and for some reason they had this obsession with insulting other people's moms after everything that they'd say. So if someone calls them stupid, then they'd be like, your mom is stupid. Your mom is a whore.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Like, it's just so unnecessary. And of course, when you tell them to stop, they tell you, it's not a big deal, man. Just get over it, man. Be like, stop, come on, man. And then they'd be like, tell your mom to stop. And then eventually they'd like apologize and say they won't do it again. And then a few days would go by and they'd do it again. You know someone is toxic when they promise to change and to stop bothering you or hurting you, but they don't end up doing that. They do it again and they laugh about it. I mean, and to their credit, they were like mid-level students. Like, I think Mark actually had like better grades in math than I did, and maybe science too. So they weren't delinquents, you know, to their credit. To their credit. And now for the icing on the cake. If everything else wasn't bad enough, but before we get into that, you know, a little bit of psychological expose or a bit of analysis. Basically, when you have low self-esteem and you get mocked by all of your friends and they all agree on a conclusion, then you take that conclusion as truth. Like, you need to dress a certain way, or you need to talk a certain way, you need to act a certain way, you need to listen to a certain type of music. You start to take that as truth because everybody's saying it, so they must be right. But I mean, obviously what the middle school child doesn't realize, what the middle schooler doesn't realize is that that's only 5 people. It's not the entire world. But to them, that is the entire world. So one day, like every once in a while, they were talking about watching porn. I didn't say anything, I wasn't participating in the conversation, but Alex and Mark were also talking to me. Then eventually Mark said that any 13-year-old who doesn't watch porn has no life. That's what he said. I was shocked. And now, we might not be shocked now because of how widespread pornography has become. But this was like 10 years ago. Any 13-year-old who doesn't watch pornography apparently has no life. Like, watching pornography defines your life. It's like the most ridiculous logic ever. And while I was disgusted and knew that like, pornography isn't exactly a joke, part of me couldn't help but feel like maybe they're right. Maybe I'm missing out on something. You know, they seem to talk about it every once in a while. You know, maybe there's something to it. Maybe I'm missing out. Like, it's crazy what kind of effect your friends can have on you. Like, Mark used to tell me that he smoked cigarettes. Like, I can't remember where he got them. Maybe he stole them from his dad or something. And it's not far-fetched to imagine a middle schooler getting access to this. You know, older siblings or cousins or anybody else. It's not really far-fetched for that to happen. And obviously it's not far-fetched for a middle schooler to be watching porn because you literally just need an internet browser, you just need a phone. But this was who I was surrounded with, and this was who I surrounded myself with. These were my friends. And at the time I didn't realize what kind of effect they would have on me. There's a lot more to say, but this is getting quite lengthy. Did they change? Are we still friends? Did I change? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.